All eyes were locked on Big Meech and Lorrie as they stood before the judge, the charged air thick with suspense. The courtroom, usually a space of order and restraint, felt on the edge of something wild. Flashes from cameras filled the background, reporters leaned forward, and everyone sensed something unusual was about to unfold. In a split second that seemed to slow time, Big Meech leaned in toward her co-accused girlfriend, Lorrie. The closeness sent shockwaves through the gallery, calling up memories of Thabo Bester and Nandipha's headline-making display. The pair's near kiss in that moment held everyone captive, drawing gasps and an instant flood of media attention. It wasn't just affectionate. It broke the usual code of courtroom behavior and left the public craving details about what led up to this unforgettable scene. Who are Big Meech and Lorrie? The faces behind the drama. Every headline about Big Meech and Lorrie is charged with suspense and curiosity. When their eyes met in court, the tension felt almost cinematic, echoing the famous moments that once gripped the nation with Thabo Bester and Nandipha. But to really understand why the gallery fell silent, you need to know who these two are and what brought them together under the harsh lights of the courtroom. Big Meech, the shadow and the spotlight. Big Meech, Demetrius Flenory, is a name that rings out well beyond the news. He built a reputation as the head of the Black Mafia Family, or BMF, a group that dominated underground scenes and attracted both fear and fascination. Born in Detroit, Big Meech grew up hustling, with a knack for quick moves and big plans. By the late 90s, he and his brother were running a powerful network that, at its peak, ran coast to coast. For years, the law chased after Meech while legends about his charisma, power, and style spread through cities and music tracks. Even after his arrest in 2005, Meech's story never faded. People followed every update, his courtroom glances, jail cell letters, and rare public appearances, like chapters from a thriller. America saw him as more than a criminal. He became a pop culture figure, a character in TV shows, and the subject of endless rumors. Every scene with Big Meech, like his near kiss with Lorrie, carries the weight of a man who changed lives in ways few can imagine. Lorrie, the unexpected heart of the story. Lorrie, who entered the public eye mainly as Big Meech's girlfriend, surprised many with her resilience. Unlike Meech, she wasn't raised in the streets or used to shadows. Early glimpses of Lorrie painted her as someone caught between two worlds. The ordinary life many know, and the chaos surrounding Meech. Lorrie showed up in courtrooms not as a passive observer, but as a steady presence, sometimes holding Meech's gaze when few dared. In TV depictions and real events, she is more than a bystander, often driving the conversation and supporting Meech in ways that spark both sympathy and gossip. She too became a subject of public speculation, her loyalty questioned, her motives debated. Her story gained new heat during the recent court hearing. As Meech leaned in, the world saw not just a co-accused, but a woman caught in a storm, standing her ground. Every move between Lorrie and Meech was watched closely, each tiny gesture sparking countless headlines. Shared spotlight, echoes of Bester and Nandipha. The electricity between Big Meech and Lorrie recalls the tension of Thabo Bester and Nandipha's dramatic court embrace. In both sagas, public curiosity fused with criticism, as onlookers tried to decipher the true bond between the accused. Romance in handcuffs, affection in a place meant for justice. These moments turn regular trials into legends. Meech and Lorrie, like their predecessors, became symbols of defiance. a pair who let the world know their story was not just about crime and punishment, but about human connection under pressure. Their almost kiss was more than a headline. It was a public signal that sometimes intimacy can shake even the coldest rooms and rewrite how we see those under the harshest lights. Inside the courtroom, a moment nobody expected. When the bailiff called order, every person in the courtroom braced for the usual grueling rhythm of proceedings. The weight in the air was thicker than usual, the shadows hiding a sense of suspense that pulsed through every heart present. Friends of the accused, strangers, and courtroom regulars all felt it. A crackle like static before a summer storm. That was when history pressed pause and every eye focused on the impossible. Tension in the air. On that day, it felt like every frame was moving in slow motion. The room was filled with murmurs moments before the drama. Big Meech and Lorrrie, surrounded by armed officers and flashing cameras, met in a stare that could chill or warm to the bone. It was more than nerves or courtroom fatigue. Something rare was brewing. Their proximity was shocking, echoing the way Thabo Bester once closed the space between himself and Nandipha Magudumana in court, drawing the world in with just a look. The silence stretched and hummed, and you could almost hear the reporters ready their headlines. In a place defined by strict rules, that single heartbeat would write its own rules. The near kiss, hearts racing, time slowing. Then came the moment, the one that changed whispers to wide-eyed disbelief. Big Meech leaned toward Lorrie with a boldness that left the gallery stuck between outrage and awe. It was not just a show of support or a stolen gesture. It was a split second soaked with feeling, bold and risky. The tip of their noses nearly met. Lorrie pressed forward, her restraint holding the moment in place, every emotion written on her face. The gallery froze. Even the judge's usual authority looked a shade paler as the room held its collective breath. For a courtroom used to hard facts and cold justice, this almost kiss pulled people into a different story. One about loyalty and forbidden connection, all unspooling beneath the court's bright lights. The echoes of Bester and Nandipha's embrace felt close, reminding everyone that passion and defiance have their own language, one louder than any gavel could command. The crowd's reaction, a chain reaction of shock. Voices caught in throats, gasps bounced off marble walls, a pulse of pure disbelief rippled from the front row to the public gallery. Reporters scrambled for their phones, court artists' hands shook, and the attorneys exchanged loaded glances, unsure if they should intervene or watch the bold act play out. It turned into a moment that people would replay again and again. It was not just the press who buzzed. Social media lit up, with hashtags and video clips shooting across timelines. The words Meech and Lorrrie trended non-stop, as did the comparisons to Bester and Nandipha. In minutes, the world outside the court was just as stunned as those who stood frozen inside. Unspoken rules, broken with a glance. By almost kissing in court, Big Meech and Lorrrie set a fire to courtroom tradition. These rules are meant to keep feelings out and focus sharp. Instead, the couple turned formality upside down. It showed that under the pressure of chains, cameras, and cold benches, raw emotion waits for any opening. Just as Bester and Nandipha made headlines for their bold display, Meech and Lorrie's near kiss reminded us that some stories refuse to be tamed. Love, longing, and loyalty spilled into a place built for restraint, and the gallery became a theater of real, unstoppable feeling. The almost kiss, play-by-play of a shocking scene. Few moments in any courtroom are remembered for years, but what happened between Big Meech and Lorrie that day has secured its place in court legend. As the world looked on, a charged scene unfolded that had everyone talking. The energy in the room fizzled like an electric wire too tightly wound, mirroring scenes the public first saw during Thabo Bester and Nandipha's tense displays. This is the story of the almost kiss. Every glance, movement, and held breath. Eyes that confessed everything. From the start, Big Meech and Lorrie communicated as much through their eyes as with words. Neither wore fear. Instead, every look between them was heavy with unspoken history. Photographers tried to catch more than just two accused. They captured a story written on their faces. Each sideways glance deepened the air of suspense, building layer by layer until the entire gallery seemed to hold its breath. Just like Bester and Nandipha locking eyes across the courtroom, each second with Meech and Lorrie pulled the crowd further in. People sensed something huge was coming. The side conversation of the lawyers barely registered. No one wanted to blink. The lean in, a trigger for gasps. The first real shock came when Big Meech moved closer to Lorrie. This wasn't a clumsy reach or an accidental step. It was intentional, a slow, careful move that everyone clocked. It called up images of that infamous court moment between Bester and Nandipha, when every inch between them seemed charged with stories. Big Meech paused just shy of breaking the invisible line. To those watching, the space left was thin, just enough for a whisper, a secret, or a lightning bolt. Lorrie's chin lifted, her body language as open as the moment would allow. No one said a word. Everyone in the gallery watched the gap shrink and wondered if Meech would make contact. You could almost hear hearts racing over the gentle clicks of cameras. Seconds that lasted a lifetime. Courtroom drama rarely runs in slow motion, but in those seconds, time stretched. The pair hovered inches apart, noses nearly brushing. Every muscle in their faces twitched with what they wanted and what they couldn't have. Lorrie's hands, visible and trembling, seemed to tell her own story. Meech's lips parted, not to speak, but with the urge to cross a line. Judges, guards, even the scribbling court reporters stopped to watch, as if the outcome could tilt the fate of the day. The almost kiss was both simple and daring. It showed the human side of those often painted in broad, cold strokes of right and wrong. Just as with Bester and Nandipha, it was a moment that slipped past rules and found the heart of everyone watching. The courtroom reacts. Shock waves ripple out. When it became clear there would be no actual kiss, the collective exhale from the crowd filled the room. Some people shook their heads, others gasped or grinned in disbelief. The judge looked away for a split second, searching for the old order in a space forever changed. Even without words, the news flew. Whispered rumors zigzagged between benches. Reporters scribbled furiously, fighting to put that electric moment into plain language. Some called it bold, some called it reckless. But no one could forget it. The mix of emotion and resistance, so like the Bester and Nandipha saga, left everyone sure of one thing. History had just been made, and they were there to witness it. Every pair of eyes in that gallery walked away, with the memory burned in bright colors, impossible to erase. Reaction. From social media frenzy to legal fallout. In a matter of minutes, what happened between Big Meech and Lorrie in that courtroom morphed from whispered shock to a national discussion. Phones lit up and timelines flooded, but the fallout didn't stop with viral memes and heated debates. The line between entertainment, real human drama, and legal boundaries blurred, echoing the chaos that surrounded Thabo Bester and Nandipha after their infamous court appearance. Every reaction carried a ripple. The frenzy became a storm, shaking not just social feeds, but the entire legal process. The social media eruption. Once the near kiss hit the public eye, social media platforms exploded. Clips surfaced within minutes, spreading across Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X, Twitter. Users rushed to share their opinions, tag friends, and join hashtags. In just a few hours, Meech and Lorrrie became front-page news and water-cooler talk everywhere. Posts ranged from outrage to romantic praise. Some viewers saw passion and loyalty, a couple refusing to break under pressure. Others viewed it as disrespect for the court, a dangerous display when facing serious charges. Influencers weighed in, adding fuel to the fire with quick takes and polls. Urban blogs broke down every second, replaying the almost kiss frame by frame. Much like the wave of posts after Bester and Nandipha's public moment, this court scene became a soap opera. People posted side-by-side photos, compared body language, and questioned what these gestures meant for the trial. Hashtags like #MeechMoment and #LorrieInLove soared. Public divided. Romance or recklessness? The reactions poured in fast and hard. While some saw a story that sparked empathy, others couldn't believe what they witnessed in a court of law. Many began asking if such open affection, especially from accused individuals, crossed a line that even love shouldn't blur in a place meant for justice. Supporters. These fans rooted for Big Meech and Lorrrie, calling their act defiant and real. They compared them to Bester and Nandipha, saying love makes people brave, even when the world is against them. Critics. On the flip side, plenty argued that courts are not a stage for affection. They felt the display was calculated, inappropriate, or even a stunt for sympathy. Observers. Many simply marveled at how this saga played out like a binge-worthy TV series. Screenshots and memes captured every possible moment, making sure no one missed out. The split resembled the division after Bester and Nandipha's embrace. Some rooting for love, others for the law. Memes, viral clips, and public scrutiny. It didn't take long before the moment became meme fodder. Social media users jumped at the chance to turn Meech and Lorrie's near kiss into viral content. Memes compared the couple to forbidden romances from movies, while others lampooned the scene as over-the-top or straight out of a telenovela. Short video edits and reaction GIFs multiplied as the story trended. Influencers shared posts with captions like, "Justice or Juliet and Romeo sequel?" As with the Bester and Nandipha saga, humor tried to mask discomfort. But the serious undercurrent remained. People questioned if public trials had turned into entertainment. Media waves and endless news cycles. Traditional news outlets picked up the story almost as quickly as social media. News sites and TV segments rehashed every detail. Legal experts debated on talk shows. Guests examined the possible impact of the couple's actions on their case, comparing it to previous headline moments in other high-profile trials. The spectacle echoed Bester and Nandipha's experience, where every court action got a primetime slot. Coverage swung from tabloid-style gossip to stern analysis. Every statement, even the silence between the accused, became fodder for experts and armchair analysts. Legal repercussions take shape. What began as a spectacle soon spilled over into legal consequences. Judges and prosecutors don't take these scenes lightly. Discussions buzzed about possible sanctions. Would Big Meech and Lorrrie face penalties for disrupting decorum? Could the defense or prosecution use the moment to sway the case? Security protocols quickly tightened. Authorities warned that any future displays, no matter how brief or emotional, would bring swift warnings or even contempt charges. Attorneys exchanged tense words behind the scenes, some arguing the incident risked overshadowing the facts at the heart of the case. This mirrored Bester and Nandipha's saga, where public attention added pressure on the courts, forcing judges to issue warnings about future courtroom conduct. Everyone understood that legal proceedings could no longer ignore the wild power of viral attention. Crowd influence. From empathy to anger. No reaction stayed the same for long. Some members of the public moved from sympathy to skepticism as media uncovered more about the case. Courtroom etiquette, often invisible, suddenly became a trending topic. Debates around social privilege and bias burned into daily talk shows. Did fame create new rules? Was this the romance of the year or a dangerous distraction from justice? These questions refused simple answers. When justice and fame collide, everyone becomes a spectator, and everyone has a stake in the story. Historic parallels. Bester, Nandipha, and the drama cycle. The shadow of Thabo Bester and Nandipha hung over every reaction. Their story showed that the line separating fact from drama gets thinner with every headline. Big Meech and Lorrrie found themselves living out a script already written in the court of public opinion. Every reaction, from meme to legal notice, showed how quickly a fiery moment becomes a lasting legend. One that shapes not just cases, but how society thinks about love, guilt, and spectacle under the harshest lights. Comparisons with Thabo Bester and Nandipha. Public displays of affection in court. When Big Meech and Lorrrie nearly kissed in full view of the court, many couldn't help but remember the wild attention that swarmed around Thabo Bester and Dr. Nandipha Magudumana. These public court moments, charged with real feeling and suspense, have a way of shifting the entire mood of a trial. They turn what should be quiet, tense settings into stages for national drama. Both couples, swept up in legal storms, let connections slip through cracks in tough security and unbending rules. The parallels aren't accidental. They reveal a lot about the power of emotion and spectacle when the world is watching. Two couples, a shared shock. In the saga of Thabo Bester and Nandipha, that now famous embrace stunned not only the gallery, but also anyone tuned in from home. When Dr. Nandipha locked eyes with Bester in front of the judge, her composure wavered, tears slipped, and the air thickened with suspense. People watching saw something raw and unexpected. Their moment was not just about holding hands or a quick touch. It was an act that pulled the public right into their narrative of love, loyalty, and scandal. The scene with Big Meech and Lorrrie was strikingly similar. Like Bester and Nandipha, they defied courtroom rules and let a flash of tenderness shine through the hard shell of a criminal case. Meech's bold lean-in, with every reporter's pen ready to burst, touched off the same swirl of debate. Was this courage or disrespect? Love or a stunt? Just as with Bester and Nandipha, the question left the room divided and restless. Suspense in every glance. The public seems to have an endless appetite for suspense in courtroom dramas, and both couples served it by the spoonful. For Bester and Nandipha, those first steps toward each other were electric. Each look was a protest against their fate, a silent plea across shackles. Court reporters described the feeling as an invisible line warming up the benches. Meech and Lorrie's near kiss carried that same heavy charge. Eyes locked, breaths held, time seemed to teeter on a thin edge. The suspense was as thick as a storm cloud. People leaned in, sensing that something irreversible was about to snap. Even guards and lawyers stood a little stiffer, uncertain how to settle the storm without making it worse. The ripple effect. Media and public obsession. When one couple breaks from courtroom tradition, the impact is instant and loud. Social media surges with reactions, side-by-side comparisons pop up, and memes double as news commentary. Bester and Nandipha's tender moment was dissected on every screen, frozen and replayed until it became part of the country's collective memory. Big Meech and Lorrie's moment seized the same spotlight. Hashtags trended, clips shot through the internet, and commentators found endless angles to debate what it meant. For days, both couples held center stage. Fuel for folks who crave stories that mix risk with romance. Love, danger, and the courtroom stage. When love slips through the cracks of strict order, it feels dangerous, and that's why it fascinates. Courts are supposed to be cold places, focused strictly on justice and the law. But when Bester pressed his case through a look and Nandipha blinked away tears, they made space for the heart, even as they faced life-changing charges. Meech and Lorrie followed a similar script. Their moment was almost cinematic, like a scene rewritten from Bester and Nandipha's story. In both, there was that feeling the rules might shatter, if just for a second, as people remembered that even those facing harsh judgment can still reach for each other. Why these moments matter. These parallels remind us why public displays of affection in court stick in our minds. They become more than news. They're windows into what it means to be human under pressure. Bester and Nandipha set a bold example, and Meech and Lorrie echoed it with their own flash of resistance. People see themselves in these charged glances. They talk, wonder, and sometimes worry that the courts are turning into reality shows. Yet, in every gasp and headline, these stories reveal the messy, unpredictable side of justice. One where the heart sometimes beats louder than the gavel. The charged scene between Big Meech and Lorrie in open court did more than spark gossip. It redrew the lines between law and raw human emotion. Their near kiss became the heartbeat of a moment the public won't soon forget, echoing the shockwaves once sent by Thabo Bester and Nandipha's own defiant embrace. A single act, as fleeting as a breath, stripped away the formality that usually defines the courtroom and exposed the fragile humanity beneath the surface. Whether defined as love, risk, or rebellion, that split second made the trial feel deeply personal and impossible to ignore. In homes and headlines, people felt the story's weight, wondering how much these private sparks will shape the verdict and public faith in justice itself. This moment taught us that no space, however rigid or regulated, is immune to unpredictable connection. In a world obsessed with order and outcome, a flash of feeling still has the power to rattle the pillars of power. Thank you for following this story. Share your thoughts below and stay tuned for the lasting effects this dramatic day may have on everyone watching.